Have you ever noticed how some people seem to have an almost supernatural control over the environment around them without saying a word? They don't chase, they don't explain, they simply withdraw. And suddenly, everything shifts. The energy changes, people lean in, respect appears out of nowhere. People don't value what's always available, and in that truth lies the key to reclaiming your peace. Because when you're constantly accessible, you're not being helpful, you're being drained. Quietly, repeatedly, emotionally. Why is it that the more available you are, the more invisible you feel? Could it be that you've been trained to abandon yourself just to be accepted? In this video, we expose the hidden cost of being endlessly available and how choosing strategic silence can transform your relationships, your presence, and your power. If you're going to get anything out of this video, just get this. You don't have to explain your absence to earn your worth. And don't miss the powerful Buddhist bonus lesson at the end. It could shift everything. Number 1, the power of withdrawal. Have you ever wondered why silence feels uncomfortable? Why being unavailable, even for a moment, stirs guilt? As if disappearing for a day means disappearing from life. We live in a world addicted to reaction. Every ping, every expectation, every demand tugs at you like invisible ropes. But what if your strength didn't lie in your availability, but in your absence? Like a wise turtle withdrawing into its shell, power often comes not from presence, but from purposeful retreat. The Buddha once said, "As a solid rock is not shaken by the wind, the wise are not moved by praise or blame." In a world obsessed with opinions and instant replies, being unmoved is a revolution. There's a story of a monk who lived near a bustling village. Every day, people would visit him with questions, requests, and chaos. One morning, he vanished into the forest without a word. Days passed, then weeks. When he returned, someone asked him why he disappeared. He smiled and said, "I went to listen, not to them, but to me." His absence wasn't abandonment, it was alignment. And maybe that's what you need too, not to run, but to realign. You see, when you are always available, you teach the world to interrupt your peace. You become a resource, not a human, a responder, not a thinker. But the moment you step back, create sacred pauses, say no to drama, and silence the noise, something shifts. People begin to respect your boundaries. You begin to respect yourself. How long will you let others dictate your worth with their urgency? When will your time belong to you again? In Buddhist philosophy, withdrawal isn't weakness. It's clarity. It's solitude, not as escape, but as revelation. The quiet isn't empty. It's full of answers you can't hear when you're busy pleasing everyone. Modern life rarely gives permission to pause, but mindfulness demands it. Create intentional spaces in your day where you are unreachable, not to the world, but to chaos. Unplug, breathe, listen. Are you still offering your time to those who never offered their presence? Still stretching your soul for people who wouldn't notice if you disappeared? When you stop being available to everyone, something powerful happens. You become fully available to yourself, to your values, to your purpose. That's not selfish, that's spiritual maturity. And here's the truth no one tells you. Withdrawal is a form of wisdom. It teaches you who checks in when you go silent. It shows you the difference between connection and convenience. And most importantly, it returns you to your center. So today, be like the wise turtle. Pull back, not out of fear, but to gain a better view. Practice stillness. Let the world spin without your immediate response. Because when you stop being everywhere, you finally arrive somewhere, present, peaceful, and powerful. You don't have to be available to everyone just because they expect it. You were never meant to be a lifeline for chaos. Try being unavailable. Watch everything change. 2. Your energy drain from over-availability. Have you ever felt exhausted without moving a muscle? Like you gave everything, but somehow you still feel empty? You smile, you nod, you answer the messages, take the calls, carry the burdens. And yet by nightfall, your soul feels thin, your breath shallow. You wonder, am I tired? Or just constantly accessed by the wrong people? You are not a machine. You are not a therapist on call. You are not a light switch that turns on every time someone walks into your life with a need. You are a sacred river, and if everyone drinks from you endlessly without return, you will eventually run dry. Buddha once said, "He who knows others is wise. He who knows himself is enlightened." But how can you know yourself when you're too busy responding to everyone else? How can you grow, reflect, evolve when your time, your energy, your attention is owned by every voice except your own? There's a man I once met who told me something I'll never forget. He said, "I used to think burnout came from doing too much, but it wasn't that. I burned out from doing too much for the wrong people." That hits deep, because burnout isn't always from overwork. Sometimes it's from over-availability, from giving and giving without pause, without purpose, without boundaries. It's time to protect your energy like it's sacred currency. Audit your life. Who are the people you feel lighter around, and who leaves you feeling drained? What tasks fill your heart, and what drains your peace, even your social media? Is it inspiring you, or slowly suffocating your self-worth? You don't have to disappear to find peace, but you do need to learn to say no. With kindness, yes, but with firmness. Your time is not a public playground. Your energy is not a bottomless well. What if the reason your dreams aren't growing is because you've been watering everyone else's garden but your own? In Buddhist practice, mindfulness isn't just about breath. It's about awareness of where your energy flows and whether it returns. Ask yourself, what could flourish if I stopped watering what drains me? What would happen if, just for a while, you chose your peace over your popularity, your purpose over people-pleasing? Say no, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. Not to hurt others, but to honor yourself. The right people won't need you to be always available. They'll respect you even more when you protect your space. Let this be the moment you stop giving unlimited access to a limited resource. Let this be the moment you choose depth over distraction. Because in the end, it's not your job to be everything to everyone. It's your responsibility to be whole for yourself. You don't owe everyone a piece of you, especially when you're still learning how to feel whole within. Try being less available and watch your life become more meaningful. 3. The illusion of always being needed. Why do you keep showing up when no one asked you to? Why do you rush to fix, to explain, to offer, even when your soul whispers that you're tired? There's a silent illusion that so many carry, that to matter, you must always be needed. But what if being needed is not a sign of love, but a prison in disguise? Imagine a candle that never stops burning. Eventually, it melts into nothing, not because it wasn't useful, but because it never knew when to rest. The root of suffering is attachment, the Buddha taught. And one of the deepest attachments we carry is to being important in other people's lives. We cling to roles, the fixer, the listener, the helper, not realizing we're burning out just to prove our place. There was a woman who always said yes to her co-workers, to her friends, to her family. She prided herself on being dependable, selfless, irreplaceable. But one day, Her body said no before she could. The stress, the anxiety, the silent resentment, they caught up. And she asked herself a question she had avoided for years. Who am I when I'm not rescuing anyone? That question changed everything. You are not your usefulness. You are not someone's emotional crutch. You are allowed to rest, to let others face discomfort, to let silence exist without rushing to fill it. Detaching from the need to always be on is not selfish. It's spiritual clarity. Somewhere deep inside, many of us confuse being needed with being loved. But if your worth is built only on what you can do for others, you'll never feel safe just being you. You'll spend your life performing for applause that fades. Are you willing to be misunderstood, even judged, to protect your peace? Are you brave enough to disappoint someone else in order to not abandon yourself? Buddhist philosophy doesn't teach us to fix everyone's pain. It teaches us to stop clinging to our own identities. Sometimes the need to help is just another mask for fear. Fear of being invisible, of being forgotten. But the truth is, you're allowed to step back. You're allowed to not be essential all the time. Let others grow through their discomfort. Let them solve their own puzzles. It's not cruel. It's compassionate detachment. And in that space, you find your real power. Not in doing, but in being. Not in proving, but in simply existing with presence and clarity. Stop chasing the illusion of being irreplaceable. You are not here to hold everyone else together while you fall apart. Let go of the ego that whispers, if you're not needed, you're not loved. You were never meant to carry every burden to feel worthy. You don't have to burn endlessly to prove you shine. Step back, breathe. You are enough, even in stillness. 4. Define what truly matters. You can't be everything to everyone and still be true to yourself. That's the silent trap. Constantly pulled in every direction, saying yes because you don't want to disappoint, staying available because you fear being forgotten. But a compass doesn't spin for every wind. It holds steady, always pointing north. That's how clarity begins. When you decide what truly matters and let go of what doesn't. So ask yourself, are you spending your life on what's urgent or what's essential? There's a story of a man who built a garden. He watered every corner of it, trimmed every wild branch, tended every leaf. But over time, the soil became weak and the plants stopped growing. Why? Because his energy was scattered. He gave everything, everywhere, but nothing grew deep. Until one day, he chose 3 areas to nourish, just 3. The change was slow, but something powerful happened. The roots deepened, the colors returned. His garden flourished, not because he did more, but because he focused. That's your life. Buddha said, your work is to discover your world and then, with all your heart, give yourself to it. Not half your heart, not whatever energy is left after people-pleasing. All your heart. But that can only happen when you define what truly matters. Start by identifying your top 3 life priorities. Just 3. Maybe it's your inner peace, your creative path, your spiritual journey, your relationships, your health. Whatever they are, let them guide your yes and your no. Because every yes is a trade. And if you keep trading time for things that drain you, you'll lose the very life you're trying to build. Next time someone asks for your time, your energy, your presence, pause. Ask yourself, does this request align with my Dharma or does it distract from it? That question alone can shift your life, because not everything that looks urgent is important. Not everything that's loud deserves your attention. This isn't about becoming cold, it's about becoming clear. You weren't born to be available to every demand, every invitation, every crisis. You were born to walk a path, and that path is narrow, sacred, focused. Not because you're selfish, but because you're awake. When you stop giving your time to what doesn't align, you create space for what does. Your energy returns, your peace deepens, your life begins to feel like your own again. So today, let your heart be the compass. Let your priorities be your path. And let go of the guilt that says you owe everyone your availability. Because the truth is, every time you say yes to something meaningless, you delay something meaningful. And your Dharma deserves better than that. You don't have to chase every direction to live a full life. You just have to stay true to your north. 5. You don't need to justify your boundaries. How often have you said no, only to follow it with a long explanation, justifying why you needed to rest, why you couldn't attend, why your energy was too fragile to stretch one more time? And yet, have you noticed, others rarely explain their yes the same way you explain your no. They set expectations. You seek permission. But here's the truth. You don't need to justify your boundaries. Imagine a sacred temple. Its gates are closed after sunset. No shouting or pleading from outside will open them. Not because the temple is cold or unkind, but because it honors what's sacred within. A temple doesn't explain its gates. It simply guards what is sacred. And so must you. The Buddha said, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. But how can peace live within you when you constantly let others determine your limits? When every no you whisper comes coated in guilt? When every boundary you set becomes a negotiation? Boundaries are not walls. They're doors with keys you choose when to use. They are not punishments. They are protection. And you have every right to protect your energy, your time, your spirit, without needing to explain why. I once knew someone who said yes to everything because she didn't want to seem selfish. She overextended, over-explained, over-apologized. And the more she gave, the more people expected. Until one day she realized, no matter how much she gave, it was never enough. Not for them, and certainly not for her own peace. That's when she stopped explaining. She didn't argue. She didn't defend. She simply said, I can't. Full stop. No excuse, no softness. And for the first time in her life, she felt free. Setting a boundary is a spiritual act. It says, I recognize my limit. I honor my energy. I trust my own rhythm. It is not rude. It is not harsh. It is not cruel. It is sacred. So why are you still waiting for others to approve your limits? Why do you feel the need to soften every line you draw? Your peace is your responsibility. And peace doesn't grow in over-explanation. It grows in stillness, in self-trust, in clarity. Let others react however they wish. Their discomfort is not your burden to carry. Your job is not to make everyone comfortable with your truth. Your job is to live your truth, even if it ruffles feathers. What if your boundary isn't rejection, but revelation? What if it's not the end of connection, but the beginning of self-respect? Start practicing silence after your no. Let it echo with confidence. Let it teach others how to treat you. You're not here to beg for understanding. You're here to embody it. You don't owe explanations for protecting your peace. Your boundary doesn't need permission. It needs presence. And that is enough. 6. Define your own values. There's a quiet kind of suffering that happens when you live your life bending to fit expectations that were never yours to carry. You say yes when you mean no. You stay silent when your soul wants to speak. You overextend yourself, not because it aligns with your heart, but because it keeps the peace. But peace built on self-betrayal is not peace at all. A mountain doesn't bow to passing clouds. It stands anchored in truth. And so must you. Every day, you're faced with choices. And in each one, there's a subtle pull. To be liked, to be accepted, to be safe in someone else's approval. But what if the goal isn't to be understood by everyone, but to be true to yourself? Buddha once said, "It is better to conquer yourself than to win 1,000 battles." Because the real victory isn't out there. It's in aligning your outer life with your inner truth. Most people live reactive lives. They let the moods of others shape their actions. They let opinions become their compass. But Buddhism teaches clarity, stillness, self-honesty. It teaches that the path to freedom begins with knowing what you stand for, not what others want you to stand for. Have you ever asked yourself, what do I value most? Not what sounds good, but what feels true. Is it peace, integrity, simplicity, creativity, compassion? Write it down, just 3 core values. Then ask, does my availability reflect these values or betray them? There was a man who spent years saying yes to every request. Not because he wanted to, but because he didn't want to seem selfish. He lost sleep helping others. He cancelled plans with himself. He abandoned his art, his time, his breath, all in service of being nice. Until one day, his body burned out and his spirit followed. That's when he sat down and asked, what do I really believe in? And from that day forward, every decision, including who he made himself available to, was filtered through those values. He disappointed a few people, but he finally stopped disappointing himself. The more clearly you define your values, the less available you become to things that don't align. And that's not arrogance, that's self-respect. If someone misunderstands your path, let them. You're not here to perform your worth, you're here to live it. So ask yourself, are you betraying your truth just to avoid being misunderstood? What would shift if your values came first? Even if it meant letting go of roles, relationships, or rhythms that no longer serve you. Let your values be your mountain, unmoving, steady, rooted. Let your availability be a reflection of your soul, not your fears. And remember, the world doesn't need a more agreeable version of you. It needs a more authentic one. 7. Detachment from validation. There comes a time when you realize the applause you've been chasing isn't real nourishment. It's just noise, temporary, conditional, fleeting. You bend, you perform, you stay available, not out of joy, but from the desperate hope that someone will see you, appreciate you, validate your existence. But like the moon, your light doesn't dim because the world stops looking. It's time to stop living for the reaction. Buddhism teaches praise and blame, gain and loss, pleasure and sorrow come and go like the wind. So why tie your peace to things that shift so easily? Many people remain available not because they're generous, but because they're afraid of being forgotten. They fear silence, they fear invisibility. So they keep saying yes, keep showing up, keep pleasing just to feel needed. But that availability, that constant proving, is a prison disguised as kindness. And the moment you stop feeding off approval, you'll finally taste the sweetness of freedom. There's a story of a monk who lived alone on a quiet mountainside. Visitors rarely came, no social media, no applause, no recognition. But his presence was radiant, grounded, complete. One day, a traveler asked, "How are you so at peace when no one sees you?" The monk smiled and said, "Because I see myself." Ask yourself, is your availability an offering or a plea to be loved? If no one praised your kindness, would you still be kind? If no one clapped when you sacrificed, would you still give? And if not, then who are you really doing it for? When you stop needing validation, you start becoming selective. Not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. You realize your energy is sacred, and sacred things are not put on display for approval. They are protected, revered, and offered with intention. Social media, relationships, even the workplace, all invite you to perform, to be liked, to be noticed. But true spiritual growth begins when you can sit in your own company without needing the world to clap for it. When being unseen doesn't make you feel unloved. When being misunderstood doesn't make you explain yourself. What if the people who don't see your light were never meant to? What if the silence wasn't rejection, but redirection? What if being uninvited meant being called back to yourself? Be okay with being overlooked. Be okay with walking away from applause that costs your peace. When validation is no longer your currency, peace becomes your wealth. You stop performing, you start being, you stop chasing, you start receiving. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means no longer tying your worth to something outside of you. You are the moon. Whether the world watches or not, you shine. So step back, log off, say no, and let the world spin without your constant involvement. Because the moment you stop being available for validation is the moment you become available for peace. 8. Stop rescuing, start releasing. You were never meant to carry the world on your back, yet somewhere along the way, you started picking up pieces that were never yours to hold. Their emotions, their regrets, their chaos. You began rescuing people, not out of strength, but out of guilt, out of fear that if you didn't hold everything together, everything would fall apart. But here's the truth. A bird that carries others cannot fly. And you were born to soar. There's a fine line between love and over-responsibility, between support and sacrifice. Buddhism teaches, to let go does not mean to get rid of. To let go means to let be. This isn't about becoming cold, it's about becoming wise. You can care deeply without draining yourself. You can love without losing yourself in the process. Think of a time when you stayed up worrying over someone else's choices, when you gave advice that was never followed, when you felt guilty for saying no, even when your soul whispered yes. That wasn't compassion. That was attachment dressed in concern. You weren't helping. You were enabling. You weren't guiding. You were rescuing. And rescuing feels noble until it becomes your identity, until your worth is measured by how much you give and how little you receive. But love that requires you to break yourself isn't love. It's imbalance. What would happen if you stopped trying to fix everyone else and started trusting them to walk their own path? There's an ancient Buddhist story of a man crossing a river. Along the way, he builds a raft to carry him through the current. When he reaches the other side, he continues walking, but he carries the raft on his back. A monk stops him and asks, "Why are you carrying the raft? You've already crossed." The man replies, "Because it helped me once." The monk smiles and says, "Then honor it and let it go." Some people are your raft. Some problems are temporary crossings. But if you keep carrying them long after their purpose has passed, they become your burden. You have to ask yourself, am I helping or holding on? It takes courage to let go, to watch someone struggle, to allow others to grow through discomfort. But that is what real love looks like. Not control, not rescue, but trust. You're not responsible for saving everyone. You're responsible for saving your peace. So take a breath, step back, let them face their own storms, and when they rise, it won't be because you saved them. It'll be because you believed they could save themselves. That's the gift, that's the freedom, that's the letting go. Because when you stop being available for everyone's healing, you become available for your own. And maybe, just maybe, that's when everything begins to change. 9. Digital silence is a sacred act. There's a kind of silence that heals, not the absence of sound, but the absence of noise. Digital noise, constant updates, endless scrolling. We've normalized distraction and called it connection. But Buddhism teaches, drop by drop is the water pot filled. The same is true in reverse. Each alert, each ping, each mindless scroll slowly empties your peace. Not all thieves wear masks. Some live inside your phone. Your mind is a garden. Every thought a seed. What grows depends on what you feed it. But how can anything meaningful grow when notifications are weeds, choking your focus, hijacking your emotions, and dragging you away from presence? Think about it. How often do you check your phone before you check in with yourself? How often do you scroll not because you want to, but because you forgot how to be still? We live in a world that rewards availability, quick replies, instant updates, constant reachability. But availability is not the same as value. You don't become more worthy by being more accessible. You don't become more loved by being more online. In fact, the more you're digitally connected, the more you risk being spiritually disconnected from your breath, your values, your soul. The path to clarity isn't found in more noise. It's found in sacred silence. What would happen if you started protecting your mornings like a monk? No apps, no endless feeds, just breathe, just awareness, just presence. Could you allow yourself a screen-free sunrise? Could you end your day with reflection instead of reels? It's not about abandoning technology, it's about mastering it. Use your phone as a tool, not a master. If it drains you, redesign your relationship with it. Remove the apps that trigger comparison. Silence the accounts that hijack your joy. Do you follow people or distractions? Do you scroll out of purpose or escape? There's a beautiful freedom in choosing digital silence, in scheduling time to not be reachable, in reclaiming your attention as sacred. That silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. In that space, you begin to hear your own voice again. You return to center. You begin to remember who you are without the influence of everyone else. Imagine this. Every morning, instead of grabbing your phone, you place a hand on your heart. You ask yourself, what do I want to feel today? You move from reactive to intentional. You live from the inside out. That shift is everything. Because when you stop being available to every buzz, beep, and trend, you become available to stillness. And in stillness, you don't just find peace, you become it. Your energy deserves protection. Your mind deserves silence. Your life deserves intention. So ask yourself, is your phone a tool or a master? And if it's stealing your presence, maybe the most radical act of self-love is this. Put it down, breathe, and return to the temple of now. 10. Choose inner stillness over outer access. Imagine a pond, its surface perfectly still, mirroring the sky above. Now picture the same pond disturbed by a stone, creating ripples that distort the reflection, turning clarity into chaos. This is how our minds often operate, constantly disturbed by external noise, by distractions, by the endless pull of urgency. But true clarity, true peace, comes when we allow the surface to settle, when we choose stillness over stimulation. Buddhism teaches us that stillness reflects truth, while turbulence only clouds our perception. In today's world, we're taught to respond quickly, to react to everything, emails, messages, demands. Urgency becomes our second nature. But what if this constant state of readiness is simply noise? What if your urgency isn't real, but a reaction to the outside world trying to control your inner peace? The need to always be available, to always respond immediately, can lead us into a cycle of stress, where our own voice gets lost in the din of external expectations. Buddha's wisdom offers a gentle challenge. Meditate, live purely, be quiet, do your work with mastery. These words point to a life where stillness, not availability, becomes the foundation. Instead of reacting instantly, you learn to pause. You learn to let things settle. In meditation, we don't chase thoughts. We observe them, allowing them to drift away. This is the practice of detaching from the noise of the world and finding your true center. Imagine the freedom that comes when you stop reacting immediately and allow your inner stillness to guide you. Think about it. When was the last time you chose silence over stimulation? When was the last time you sat in stillness, letting the world continue around you while you remained anchored in peace? Our constant need to be available and responsive can lead us to overlook the power of stillness. But in stillness, we reconnect with who we truly are. We see things clearly without distortion. The world can continue spinning, but we no longer feel the need to chase it. The more you embrace this stillness, the more you discover how much peace lies beyond the external world's demands. The truth is, you don't need to be available to everything in order to succeed. You don't need to constantly respond in order to be valuable. In fact, it's often in those moments of pause, in those moments of silence, that the most profound insights arise. So ask yourself, is your urgency real, or is it just the noise of the outside world trying to pull you in every direction? When you stop reacting impulsively, when you choose stillness instead, you begin to make decisions with clarity, not chaos. You begin to create a life that reflects your true values, not the demands of others. Choose stillness over access. Choose peace over pressure. Let your mind become like that still pond, reflecting truth in its calmness, unshaken by the turbulence of the world. 11. Release the need to be understood. The ocean never explains its waves. It simply moves, undeterred by the onlookers on the shore. Imagine, for a moment, if the ocean paused every time it was misunderstood, if it tried to explain itself to every curious observer. It would never flow. It would never be true to its nature. And yet, we often find ourselves in this very trap, trying to justify our choices, seeking approval, and shrinking ourselves to fit others' expectations. But what if the key to your peace lies in releasing the need to be understood? In the Buddhist tradition, the journey towards peace begins with letting go of the constant need to be right or to be seen in a certain light. Let go of being right. Be still and know. These words are a profound reminder that your true peace cannot be found in external validation. It is found when you stop explaining yourself to others, when you stop seeking their approval, and when you begin to honor your own truth, even if others don't get it. Think about it. How many times have you made a decision, a choice, or taken a step on your path only to feel the need to justify it to others? Whether it's your career, your relationships, or your personal journey, the desire to be understood can be a silent force that drains your energy and leads you away from your own path. Every time you shrink to be liked, every time you explain your silence, you give away a piece of your authenticity. You give away your peace. The truth is, not everyone will understand your journey. Not everyone will understand why you need solitude, why you need to say no, or why you are walking a path that doesn't fit their expectations. But what if that was okay? What if you didn't need to explain yourself? What if your peace mattered more than their approval? Imagine walking your path so confidently, so lovingly, that you no longer feel the need to seek anyone's validation. Instead, you stand firmly in your truth, allowing your own journey to unfold without apology. This is the essence of Buddhist mindfulness, to move with the flow of life, undisturbed by the need for others to understand. It is about cultivating an inner stillness where your peace comes from within, not from external approval. As you walk this path, ask yourself, am I shrinking to be liked? Am I compromising my truth to fit into someone else's expectations? Your peace is more important than their approval. And when you stop seeking external validation, you begin to realize that your journey is yours to own. You begin to love your path enough to walk it alone, knowing that in your solitude, you are never truly alone. The ocean moves without explanation. It doesn't seek approval, and yet it remains vast, powerful, and free. Let your life be like that, flowing, unshaken by the need to be understood, and at peace with the mystery of your own journey. Bonus lesson. Embrace sacred solitude. In the stillness of a quiet pond, a lotus blooms. It doesn't fight the mud beneath it or the chaos around it. It simply rises, untouched, serene, beautiful in its solitude. Much like the lotus, you have the power to bloom in the stillness of your own being. But too often, we're overwhelmed by the noise of life, the constant demand to be available, to be needed, to be seen. We forget that true growth often happens not when we're reaching outward, but when we turn inward. In Buddhism, solitude is not something to fear or avoid. It's a sacred space for healing and reflection. When was the last time you allowed yourself to simply be with your thoughts, your feelings, without the need to fix anything or do anything? We live in a world where distractions are constant and the demand to be always available is louder than ever. Social media, work, relationships, they all pull us in different directions, and we begin to lose sight of ourselves in the process. But there is immense power in being alone. Solitude is not loneliness. It is a sacred act of self-witnessing, a chance to listen deeply to what your soul is trying to say. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. These words remind us that our thoughts shape our reality. And if we're constantly responding to external noise, we lose the chance to tune in to the quiet wisdom within. The busy, chaotic world may demand your presence, but if you never take the time to step away, you'll miss the chance to reconnect with the deepest parts of yourself. Solitude isn't just a break from the world. It's an opportunity to realign with your inner truth, to heal from the noise that over-availability creates. Imagine what might unfold if you took sacred time each day to simply be alone with yourself, not to fix anything, not to solve problems, but simply to witness your thoughts and emotions. The constant pressure to be available, to respond, to act, can drown out your inner voice. But in solitude, you create space for clarity. You create space for your soul to rise, just like the lotus emerging from the mud. What if being alone wasn't something to fear, but something holy? What if it wasn't a sign of being rejected or lonely, but a sign of deep personal growth? In the quiet, you can hear your soul's desires, your true needs, and the path that calls to you. When you step away from the world, you stop becoming what others expect you to be and start becoming who you truly are. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed or stretched too thin, ask yourself, when was the last time I allowed myself to be truly alone, to simply witness my thoughts, my heart, and my mind? Because in that sacred solitude, there is peace, there is healing, and there is the opportunity for transformation. The lotus blooms alone, untouched by the noise. And so, too, can you. Quick summary of the principles. The power of withdrawal. Step back from noise, urgency, and constant engagement. Choose moments of retreat to center yourself and regain clarity. True strength lies in deliberate disconnection. Withdrawing doesn't mean weakness. It means wisdom in motion. Your energy drained from over-availability. Saying yes to everything spreads your energy too thin. Recognize what drains your peace and create energetic boundaries. Your time and attention are sacred. Use them with intention, not obligation. The illusion of always being needed. You're not responsible for everyone's happiness or healing. Constantly being needed is often a disguise for codependency or ego validation. Let go of the savior complex and reclaim your inner balance. Define what truly matters. Align your life with your top priorities. Every decision you make should honor your core values. When your life is built around what truly matters, clarity and peace naturally follow. You don't need to justify your boundaries. You don't owe anyone explanations for choosing peace. Boundaries protect what's sacred, and you can set them without guilt or defense. Be clear, be kind, and stand firm. Define your own values. Your life must be shaped by your truth, not others' expectations. Stay rooted in your values, even if it means walking a path alone. Integrity begins with honoring your inner compass. Detachment from validation. Let go of the need to be liked, seen, or applauded. Seeking constant validation disconnects you from your authentic self. Real peace begins when your worth no longer depends on external approval. Stop rescuing, start releasing. You are not responsible for fixing other people's lives. Let others face their own lessons while you focus on your path. Supporting doesn't mean self-sacrificing. Digital silence is a sacred act. Technology steals your attention if you're not conscious. Create daily rituals of silence by unplugging from devices and digital noise. Presence is the new luxury. Protect it. Choose inner stillness. Over outer access, prioritize peace over performance. Inner stillness is where wisdom grows, while constant availability feeds stress. Silence allows your deepest truth to surface. Release the need to be understood. Not everyone will understand your silence, your no, or your healing. And that's okay. Let go of the need to explain and start walking in your own light. Embrace sacred solitude. Solitude isn't loneliness, it's spiritual alignment. Make time to be alone with your thoughts and soul. The more you return to yourself, the less you seek outside noise. In a world that demands your time, your energy, and your constant presence, the greatest rebellion is to take control of your life. You don't owe every call a reply, every problem a solution, or every person access to your peace. True power lies in choosing when to engage and when to walk away, without guilt, without apology. The mind, like water, reflects truth only when still. Most people never realize that over-availability is not kindness. It's often self-abandonment in disguise. When you stop being endlessly available to others, you become finally available to your own growth, your passions, your healing. This is how you rise, not louder, but clearer. Zen teaches us that when you let go of who you should be, you become who you truly are. This isn't about building walls. It's about creating space where your soul can breathe again. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it's sacred. You don't need to earn rest. You don't need to prove your worth. You are already enough. So pause, breathe, redraw your life with purpose. You were never meant to run on empty, to be everything to everyone. You were meant to move through this world with stillness, clarity, and quiet strength. Like this video if it awakened something in you. Share your thoughts in the comment box. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe to Deep Wisdom for more inspiring Buddhist insights on living a peaceful life.